Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Over the next half an hour, we'll be looking beyond the business headlines by giving you in-depth perspective on the stories that are affecting all of us. Coming up on today's show, for the first time in over 100 years, members of the Royal College of Nursing downed tools this week over a long-running dispute with the British government over jobs, pay and conditions. General practitioner Dr. Oge Olozue will be speaking with me from the capital with some context to these unprecedented strikes. And earlier this week, I braced the cold to head out of the studio to the borough of Newham in East London. Small business owners in this part of the capital spoke to me about the real impact of the cost of living crisis, which is crippling British households in the run-up to Christmas. Then later, I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. But first, let's start the show with a story that continues to make headlines here in the UK and across the world. At least 4 people have died after a small migrant boat with up to 50 on board capsized in the English Channel off the coast of Kent. The 3 a.m. incident occurred just hours after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak promised to bring in new laws to tackle illegal immigration. According to official data, nearly 45,000 people have made the treacherous crossings on small boats so far this year.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will share my sorrow at the capsizing of a small boat in the Channel in the early hours of this morning and the tragic loss of human life. Our hearts go out to all those affected and our tributes to those involved in the extensive rescue operation.
Can I join the Prime Minister? Our prayers go out to those who capsized in the freezing waters of the Channel last night. It's a reminder that the criminal gangs running those routes put the lives of the desperate at risk and profit from their misery. They must be broken up and brought to justice.
Well, earlier I was joined by our business correspondent Simon Pusey for more on this story. Simon, less than 24 hours after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak gave a keynote statement to lawmakers about his new policy to tackle illegal migration from the Channel, we have another disaster.
Yeah, and it's something that actually has sort of brought Parliament together in the condemnation of the gangs that are responsible for the crossings, and also the tone set out by Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer. There was no political point scoring on this one. It's a tragedy. 4 people dying and 39 people rescued after one of these boats crossed the Channel. It's insane thinking about the weather conditions we've got at the moment that people would try this. But you can understand how they might be cajoled by the gangs to say, well, this is your last chance because it's going to be cold for several more weeks. There won't be many marshals the other side, so you've got a good chance of getting there. But it is tragic, and it shows just the problem we've got at the moment, that this is continuing. In the summer we were seeing record figures of people coming across the Channel, but that was because the weather was more favourable, and for people to be trying to do it now really shows the scale of the event. Afterwards, the UK and France both pledged to destroy the business model of people smuggling gangs. I guess one of the positive points of recent weeks is that the UK is working with France better than the country was under Boris Johnson. Under previous Conservative Prime Ministers, Rishi Sunak has gone out there with Suella Braverman and made this pact with France, sent more money. So you'd hope to be seeing less people coming across, but it does just show that this problem continues, and it's really hard to stop it. And there's lots of different sort of points up for debate in terms of hotels when they come across here. Is putting people up in hotels a signal to people coming across that even when they make it, they're going to be looked after well? Well, that's not the case often, because you don't know if you're going to make it in some of these boats. So it's a real tragedy, and it's something the government know that they need to do more on. But it's really hard to find a way. And Sir Keir Starmer in the Labour benches was not hammering the government for this one, because it's a really hard topic. And they disagree, of course, on the Rwanda policy and various other things. But it's such a big problem that I think if Labour were in power, there's no easy answers there. So I think policing the Channel more, policing it from France as well, those are things, and somehow breaking up these criminal gangs, but they operate in Europe, away from the UK, away from UK jurisdiction. So one of those big tragedies, but really hard to see easy answers.
It is really difficult, isn't it? I think a lot of campaigners and advocates, they've been saying it's the policy for how you can seek asylum in the UK. If you're not from Afghanistan, if you're not from Ukraine or a war-torn area, you're just not going to be assisted. So I think a lot of people are now asking for open borders, basically, or to just help people get here.
Yeah, or get a policy in place where you can get to the UK legally,
Absolutely.
Which is easier than currently, because you speak to a lot of international students, for example, or people who are coming here to work. They say the amount of bureaucracy involved is insane, and it takes a long, long time. And so a lot of people don't have those options. So they do plump for the option of going across in a boat, and you get countries where their social media are saying, look how glorious it is in London, it was super easy to get here. Well, that's not true. These gangs are peddling those myths. So I agree with you that I think, if there was an easier route in terms of getting here legally for people that are coming from war-torn countries and have a legitimate claim of asylum, then that would probably stop some of these boats coming over.
Yeah, well, just another tragedy. And unfortunately, some said it was inevitable. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Let's remain with this topic regarding the tragedy that struck the Channel overnight on Wednesday, which led to the deaths of at least 4 people. Sharifa Energy, an activist and poet, joined me earlier here in the studio and shared her views on the developing crisis off the coast of Kent. What is your reaction to what's happened?
I personally feel like it was inevitable. It's really horrific. It's happened during winter, and again, another winter deaths in the English Channel. I just feel like, this complete hostility, the lack of creating safer legal routes, safer routes for people. For me, I don't really believe in this idea of illegal immigration, because everybody under international law has a right to migrate to another country, especially under circumstances that we're not familiar with or have never been in ourselves, And I feel I feel like it's terrible. At the moment, there's 4 deaths in the English Channel, another 42, was it? People were rescued.
Yes, I believe 44. I think they're still trying to find more people. And at the same time,
there's women and children and people, even men, currently in hospital. So hopefully we don't hear about more deaths, because people, of course, you can get hypothermia in that cold water. We've already heard about the Solihull Lake incidents with the 4 boys that fell in, and another 6-year-old just got confirmed that he passed away, and that's a lake, and this is the sea, and
it's definitely treacherous. It's a treacherous journey, isn't it? I want to talk more about government policy, because I think, especially our viewers that are watching in Nigeria, they know that Britain, while friendly, can be quite hostile to people that want to come here. And it seems as if Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, and the Conservative government, they're focused on tackling it by having more border control, having more police, stopping people from coming anyway, but not helping people who want to come. Do you think there needs to be more focus on that? Because if you're not from Ukraine, if you're not from Afghanistan or any other war-torn country, then there doesn't seem to be a route for you as an asylum seeker, does there?
England in itself is a huge depriver of human rights when it comes to people seeking refuge. And I think that this is bound to continue to keep happening. I feel really heartbroken for all the people that are struggling, that are making their way, that are put in this predicament to travel during this cold season.
Sub-zero.
Exactly.
Inky black.
Exactly. But also for the people, all the advocates for these people that have been saying it over and over again. In this country, they don't ever listen, even when it comes to people who died in Grenfell Tower, 72 people, that again was pre-warned. Everything is always pre-warned, and this country, they're happy to just kill, they're happy for people to die under circumstances that could be prevented, and safety is not a priority in this country, whether you're travelling via boat or travelling via sea, or trying to find a way to live, which is a healthy way to live.
Thank you so much, activist and poet Sharifa Energy. Thank you for joining me in the studio today.
Thank you.
Now to another topic that's causing a headache for the British government. For the first time in more than a century, hundreds of thousands of nurses have gone on strike this week over a dispute about their wages. Health workers in other unions, including ambulance staff, hospital porters and cleaners, are also voting on industrial action in the next few weeks. Several strikes are taking place from various sectors across the economy in the run-up to Christmas. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by Dr. Oge Olozue, a GP partner and trainer based in North London. Dr. Oge Olozue, thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule. I can see you're talking to me from work, so you haven't joined the picket line this week. The Royal College of Nursing, they've walked out. It's an unprecedented strike. How did we get here?
So it's been a few years in the making, I think. Several years of pay freezes, several years of, not meeting inflation pay rises. We've had the pandemic. I mean, the nurses have worked tirelessly, frontline. They put their lives at risk every single day. So I think it's more than pay, to be fair. It's also about safe working conditions. There's just not enough staff. We have over 100,000 vacancies in the NHS. I believe over 50,000 nurse vacancies. So it's a bigger, wider issue. People want to come to work and do a safe job, and they don't feel like they're able to do this at the moment. And that affects people's morale and also their ability to do their work.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times when we talk about issues in the United Kingdom, our viewers in Nigeria don't understand. But considering how many Nigerian nurses they are, I think they're pretty abreast of this discussion. The Chancellor has said that increasing pay will spiral inflation. We know, Dr. Oge, we've been talking about it all the time. Inflation is at a 41-year high. It's not just nurses and teachers and rail workers that are seeing their wages, dissolve in their back pocket. We all are. They take advice from an independent pay review body. They're saying 19%, no chance, 4 to 5%. Can you not sympathise or understand that?
In the context of what's happened over the last few years, you can't take this year in isolation. You have to look at the last 10, even 15 years as a total. And it's made all the more worse because of the high inflation at the moment. I think you have to look at all them, because it's not just nurses, look at all the people that are having industrial action. A lot of them are the key workers during the pandemic, the people that put their lives on the line. So I think as a society, we have to decide, what do we value? I get that, pockets are tight, budgets are tight, but where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's political will, they will find a way. They found a way to fund lots of things during the pandemic, which was great, but then pay NHS morale, key workers' morale, and really valuing them in a way that means that they can feed their families. Because we're not talking about excesses here. We're talking about people making ends meet. And I think as a society, we have to decide, what do we value, and then act accordingly.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's not just about clapping outside your doorstep, is it? Or, beating a pot and a pan together. These are key workers, and they have had, extensive trauma during COVID-19. I wanted to go back, if we can, and can you talk to us before you go about the role that you're doing out in that practice in North London and how things have changed since the pandemic? I think a lot of our viewers will be shocked to hear that some, people are waiting 11 hours in an ambulance outside of a hospital. Even for me, if I call my GP today, Dr. Oge, I don't think they'll give me an appointment until second, third week of January.
Yeah, I did the same for a relative yesterday, offered an appointment in mid-January. Ultimately, the system is under pressure. It isn't that people are not working. People are working harder than ever. General practice alone is providing more appointments than before the pandemic for less people doing the job. So there's going to be a bottleneck somewhere. So we want to do a good job. We want to provide equitable access and good quality care, but there needs to be enough of us. We need a system that values the work that's done, not just in general practice, obviously secondary care, not just secondary care, we're talking about the ambulances. The whole system is under pressure, hence why we're seeing the waiting times and the waiting lists and the waiting times for acute care and as well as chronic care. And don't forget cancer care and other long-term conditions. So there's a lot we're trying to do. And we are wanting to do a good job. But when there's few of us doing more work, something has to give somewhere.
Absolutely. Let's just hope before the further industrial action next week that Steve Barclay, the Health Secretary, or even the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, can sit down with the Royal College of Nursing and try to, renegotiate the salary. As the independent pay review, the former chair said on BBC Radio 4 this morning, they can reconsider. Let's hope they do in time. Dr. Oge Olozue, a GP partner and trainer at a practice in North London, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today. Well, coming up on Channel's Business Global, I'll be sharing views from residents living in the London borough of Newham, who spoke with me about the real impact of the cost of living crisis that's crippling households in the run-up to Christmas. And I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. In a moment, I'll be sharing my report, talking with residents in East London about the cost of living crisis. But until then, here's a breakdown of the biggest business news stories of the week. HSBC has announced that it will no longer be providing new lending or capital markets finance for new oil and gas fields as part of a wider update to its energy policy. The bank has come under sustained pressure over the speed of its embrace of sustainability in recent years, including protests at its annual shareholder meeting and widespread media campaigns highlighting its funding of fossil fuels. The bank says it will continue funding natural gas projects for now, given the global energy crisis and the pressures placed on supply by the war in Ukraine. Shares of the London Stock Exchange jumped 4% higher on Monday, following the news that Microsoft is to take a 4% stake in the group as part of a 10-year partnership. The collaboration will include new data infrastructure and analytics and modelling solutions provided by the tech giant. The chief executive of the LSE Group, David Schwimmer, says the strategic partnership is a significant milestone on the exchange's journey towards becoming the leading global financial market. Metro Bank has been fined £10 million by the Financial Conduct Authority after the lender failed to disclose an accounting blunder to investors. The City of London regulator said the fine is related to figures published by the bank in October 2018. The bank's former chief executive, Craig Donaldson, and former chief financial officer, David Arden, have also been fined for being fully aware of the bank's rule breach. Metro Bank said in a statement that it had fully cooperated with the FCA investigation and accepted the outcome. The two former execs said they were disappointed with the ruling and would be appealing the decision. Now to our final topic. 49% of children living in the London borough of Newham are dwelling in poverty. The East London region is one of the most diverse and most deprived boroughs in the British capital, which is the reason why I decided to head down there to find out how residents are coping with the cost of living crisis.
Before 2019, or say when the COVID finished, the market was quite busy. But after that, slowly, end of 2019 or 2020, it's go down, now right in front of you. Hardly 5-6 stalls. They are missing already. They're not coming anymore because they can't afford it. Because every day, if you are paying £100 rent, so you have to make 200 to get over the £100 rent. So if you are not, some people not even making that. So it's affecting on the business a lot because a lot of people don't have money to buy something. Let's say I have this store. People either gonna eat or they're gonna wear. So they have a two choice. So obviously, if it's me, I will go for to eat. So I think the restaurants are busy but not in the market. All the customers are running away because the things are coming expensive to us. Before something was coming to us, let's say thermal ware is coming to us £2. The same thing comes to us £4. But we have to sell on the same price, £5. Because if we say it's £7, £6, they can't afford, they just run. That's what's happening now. Because no one can afford to buy anything.
It's the worst I ever see the place like this. It's the worst, believe me. Because before, people usually can buy their stuff. Now people can't buy nothing. Everything getting back. And we have to put up the price so we can live. Because if we don't put up the price, we can't survive. Even when I go to the meat market, I usually pay like £15-16 for chicken. Now it's £25, £27. And they say we'll have to buy it or leave it. So when we still buy it, but we have to put up our price. You know what I mean? So it is very bad. Bad.
Before my taking is on the day of, one day is 800, now going half. Market also going down. People is coming before in this area. This is, I think, a long time ago. This market. I'm coming for here 2003. It's a very busy market that time, but every year they going down, 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 down. People, everything price is going up. Even you go Tesco, Peacocks, Primark, £1 gloves now this time is £2 gloves. How can people afford it for the £2? The wages same wages, and every all the stuff going up. Where they manage, so that's why the market is going down.
During the lockdown, we witnessed about over 700 to 800 people standing in the queue. So there used to be a long queue in U, going end of the street, bending and coming out of the next street. So the operation used to start since morning till evening. So it was a nightmare, and people were really badly affected, and especially a borough which is, maybe I think it's the third poorest borough in the United Kingdom. I see the rising cost of living is affecting a lot to the people here. And I can witness one lady who comes to this food bank. She's an 85 years old pensioner, and she said that she never accessed the food bank during pandemic because she could afford it within her pension. But the current rise of cost and energy bills has so adverse effect on them financially that she's been forced to come, no other option left except to come to the food bank, which she thinks is not feel easy to access here because she was never used to that. But the conditions have come to that point where they have no other options left. When we see the media, it's all percentage and all this thing, which is above of people's understanding of a lay person. Even I may not understand it. What is the GDPR coming? What is the budget of the government is, and how they're calculating, and all these things. For the layman, which means I give as an example that this food bank which buys items from the supermarket, I remember 4 weeks ago I went to one supermarket, a 240 tea bags box was only 99p. The next week it was £1 10p, and after 1 week, skipped 1 week, on the 4th week when I went, it was double priced. Wow. So you can imagine from here how it is badly hitting. There's no control on the increase prices increases at all. Every day you go, its prices increase, and it has increased enormous. Means people can't even think to buy something. Here at this food bank, we are providing them exceptional food, which is helping them to cut down some money, saving to pay their bills or some expensive. But the only thing is, when the parents are coming back with the feedback, they have to decide either the rent of the bills or the daily livings. If they pay the rents and the bills, they left nothing in their hand. They struggle. They feel so sad. They can't fulfill the needs of their children, which is, I think, so for any parent, is very devastating.
It is very devastating. How can our viewers who are watching support you?
We'll appreciate though we got local support comes to the food bank, but that is not the solution. Solution is in the hand of the government. They should have to come for though they are rolling over household support fund, but this is still a temporary support. This is not the support which is on a longer period. You're not going to resolve the issues for a longer period of time. For example, I was shocked now. I heard last week, I was really shocked when I heard that 2-bedroom flat rent is costing over £1,700. Means this is not the average pay of a UK resident. It is still moving around, evolving around 1,500 to 1,600, though it is 1,700. So that goes towards the rent of the 2-bedroom flat. I'm not speaking about 3-bedroom where the eligibility of a family with 3 children and a couple. So how they're going to cope and pay the bills? And what about their food? means there should be a cap on rents. Something can stop somewhere, please. And this has to be seriously addressed by our UK government.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global. Goodbye.